Yo, okay. Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing the basics of Sony Vegas Pro, how to do the main shortcuts that I use for anime editing, and really to just navigate your way around Vegas. So, when you first install it and you install all your plugins and the graph and stuff, you're going to end up with this default layout. So there's, I'm going to try and teach us this as if it was the first time of me using this. So you have no idea what's going on, but this is basically the preview where the video would be once you add the video down here in the track. So first you need to learn what these little sections are. So the project media here is where you would import your media, which means import clips. That's where you would bring in your clips. The first two, Hub Explorer and Vegas Hub, depending on the version you might not have Vegas Hub, but they're both useless, so you can get rid of them by pressing this X. You don't need these. Same with Explorer, I don't use that either. Video effects is where all of your plugins and basic effects are, like blur curves and stuff. It's all in alphabetical order, so that's how you would get it. For example, blur curves is here. Then we have Media Generator. This is where you would get some miscellaneous stuff like legacy text, just some random effects that you probably aren't going to use. You might use them, but I haven't really used any of them. The only ones I do use is title text as well as prototype titler for animation text. Sorry, my voice is weird. If you don't have prototype titler and you want to get it, you go to options up here. There's a bunch of different options. Go to options, preferences, there's deprecated features, and then you press enable prototype titler. And then you press OK, restart Vegas, and it should be in media generators. Transitions are for people who want to do like those automatic transitions, but in my opinion they don't look good, so I get rid of this because I don't use it. Project notes are, well, I guess what it says, you can add a note saying, oh, I should add this to your edit so you don't forget. However, I don't use that either, so I get rid of it. Now moving on to this side, there's the master bus. This is just where you control the overall volume. I don't use this, so I get rid of it. Same with trimmer here, I get rid of this as well because I don't use it. However, some people do, some people they keep it, so this isn't just a one person thing. You can do whatever you want. And I know I have a graph as well, so if you did install the graph, you have to go to Tools, Extensions, and Vegas Pro Flow. And it will pop up like this. And then when you try and drag it around, it will say docking, hold control to dock the window. So you drag it wherever you want, then hold control, and then it automatically snaps into place. So you can either have it here, or you can have it alongside the effects. For example, I can get rid of this. Here, you can have it here, and it automatically snaps in with the rest of the effects. Some people do that. Or you can even have it on the side here as well. So this all just completely depends on where you want it. I always have it here. So that just depends on how you want your layout to be. You can also move these panels as well. So you can move it the same way with the graphs like this. You could even try to mimic A if you wanted to and move it over here. But I'm just going to keep on with the simple layout so I can't confuse anyone. So now if you go into import media, we're just going to get a clip. I should have a Twixtor clip somewhere. Twixtor. Okay, I'm just gonna get a random clip. This one. Now this, it asks you to do this and it says, do you want to set your project video settings to match this video setting? So I usually press no, because you want to base your settings at the very start. So you can see here you have your project settings here, and then the video settings of this clip is down here. They're completely different. This one's 191080 and this one's 19 to 900. So I want mine to be I want my clip to be 19 1080 30 FPS. If you want to change it, you go into this project video settings here and you change the settings to whatever you want. Now, just a warning, I don't advise editing on 60 FPS. That is just, it just doesn't turn out good a lot of the time. And you need to decide your resolution and FPS at the very start of editing. So for example, right now, you have to decide it either before you add your clips or after you add your clips, like before adding effects or anything. So I want mine to be exactly like it is already, and you can see that my clip isn't 1920 1080. So we have to go to this little square icon called pan and crop. That's where you'd crop your image or your video, and you can move it around like this, but there are presets here. For example, 1.1 is usually Instagram, 4.3, that's like a square resolution, like 1080 times 1080. 16.9 is 1920 by 1080, which is the one I wanted. So I'm going to use that one, and then you can see it's automatically like this. Another thing to do is that when you're in the pan and crop section, when you're moving around your little keyframe here, like the little time slicer thing, you can see that my preview is moving with the pan and crop window. If yours won't be doing that, if you don't have this sync cursor icon highlighted, it's just a useful thing to have. And what else? If you want to separate the audio from the video, because right now they're moving together, you can press U, and that's to separate it, and now they're completely separated. And then to undo what you just did, you press Ctrl Z. So I just moved over there, so Ctrl Z again, and now it's linked again. But usually people don't have it linked, so I'm just going to press U again to separate it. And then if you want to delete it, you can either right click and press cut, or you can use the command Ctrl X, and it just gets rid of it completely. Now, if you want to split a clip or cut a clip, you press S, and then if you want to mark a clip, you press M. So I cut it, and now it's completely separated. I'm just going to undo what I've just done. Actually, I'm going to cut another section of this clip and mark it again. Again, if you want to select all of the clips at the same time, you can either select the end clip to the beginning clip. That's how you select all of them, or you can go to the icon down here and it says selection edit tool. So you just click on it and then you click and then drag, and it automatically selects every single one. So now we're going to learn what the icons down here do. So it's very self-explanatory. So the icon that pops up, it says trim the start. So I'm going to go on this first clip. We're going to ignore these two. And if I want to trim everything before this keyframe like marker thing here, I place it where I want to start cutting it. Then if I press this icon down here, everything before this marker is going to get deleted. So if I press it now, everything before that marker is deleted. It's the same with the other icon. Everything after the marker is going to be deleted like this. So the left one deletes the left side, and then the right one deletes the right side. So it really depends what you want to do with that. This icon down here is called auto ripple. It's like a blue arrow. If you highlight this and you, let's say you move the clip, it's gonna move everything after it or attached to it. If I turn this off, only one clip would move. If I turned it on again, both of them would move. So that's if you want some consistency, but if you just don't want any gaps in general, you can highlight both of them or use the selection tool like I said earlier, right click, then press close gaps, and then they get together again. Okay, and one thing I probably should have said earlier is that you can scroll in and out of the timeline with your up and down arrow. and you can go one frame at a time, either left or right, with the left and right arrow. And if you're on PC, you can scroll in and out with your scroll wheel, and then you can also click around, whether you're on laptop or PC, with your mouse or touchpad. Just click around on the actual timeline. Don't click around up here. I mean, you can, but it looks a bit weird. You don't have to drag the actual marker along like this either. You just click around and it automatically snaps onto a frame. If you drag it around, it doesn't snap onto a frame, it's just really flimsy, so just clicking around is way easier. Control S is to save your project file. That's very important. And I guess we're gonna try and show you how to add an effect. So we'd go on the video effects, search up your effect if you're above SVP 17, I believe, and it won't lag. If you're below that, it's gonna lag, so just go through your ABCs and try and find your effect. So we're gonna add S-Blurmo curves. I already have a tutorial on basic transitions, so I won't be doing that, but I'm just kind of showing you the interface. So it pops up like this. Again, you can control and dock the window if you wanted to, kind of like if you wanted to be like After Effects or something. You can dock it like this. I don't do this, but if you need to save space, that's what you can do. But I usually just keep it docked out like this. Now, these watches are kind of like recorders or stopwatches where you animate your animation with keyframes. So you click on it and it comes down with a keyframe section. So this comes with a default keyframe. You can click around the timeline. If your preview isn't moving when you're doing this, make sure to have this sync cursor icon highlighted. Same with pan and crop. So yeah, you can move around, drag it, whatever you want to do. Then you can, so Z distance zooms it in, so we're just gonna do our first keyframe as this, as 0.4, however much you want, and then you drag it to wherever you want your transition to end, and you can just double click, it goes automatically back to 1. You can also just type 1 or drag it, whatever you prefer to do. You can put your blur, shutter duration as blur, so put that down, and then reflect. These wrap things, put them to reflect. So you have a very defaulty zoom in right now because I don't have a graph. Again, you're gonna have to watch my tutorial for this because I'm not gonna be re-explaining it, but it's not as complicated as it looks. And what I'm going to show now is how you want to select multiple keyframes at once, either to move them or delete them. You can do that by holding Control and selecting each and every one, or you select the start and then the end holding Shift, which is the same as you would do on the timeline to delete everything. And then I would just do Control X, and it's gotten rid of everything except for that one keyframe because the stopwatch is on and it always needs one keyframe. So I'm just going to turn it off, and now there's nothing here. What else do I need to explain? Creating new tracks, you can either right click and then press insert video track, or you can actually see the commands it says here. You can press Control Shift Q, which creates another track, and then audio track is Control Q. Yeah, Control Q. Audio track is Control Q, video track is Control Shift Q. So it's okay if you can't learn it, you can just right click and then press insert audio track, which is completely fine. Another thing, if you want your video to just, when you're playing it, continuously loop without you having to do anything, there's a grey bar that pops up when you double click your clip. There's this grey bar, you won't see it, you might, and then you right click it and press loop playback. So that playbacks the loop, and then there's these little yellow triangles, so you don't have to keep double clicking your clip to make it appear. You just double click one clip and then you can drag it to whatever clip you want to keep looping. So I wanted to loop all of it, so I'm just going to drag all of it like that, which is pretty easy. And then if you want it to play smoothly, you have to pre-render it by pressing Shift B. So it did that very quickly because I don't have any effects on it, but it'll take more time on that if you have effects. So I'm just going to do that, and then it would play a lot more smoother. And then we would be going through our... what else before render settings? Oh, yes. So right now you either have on your tracks there is M and S, so that's mute. So you're muting a single track, or solo, and you can see only that track, nothing else. If you had any overlays above here, you wouldn't be able to see any of it. If you wanted to add an overlay, so I need to get an overlay as an example. Overlay, have some one somewhere. Okay, if I wanted to add this on top of my clip, I would first make sure to create a new track, which you should know from what I said earlier. I would drag it on top and then just cut it with either S, or you can use that icon I said before where it cuts everything after my little marker that I can move, so like that. It's way easier that way. And then you either go to these three dots and go to compositing mode and then put it as add or screen. Either one works, so I'm just going to show you both. So screen, so one's like slightly brighter, and then if you wanted to just have all the icons on your track, you go to edit visible button set, show all, okay, and then it shows everything. And then this is the compositing icon. So source alpha is the basic normal one, add is to overlay it. Then if you wanted a parent track, so there's these blue icons here called make compositing child, which again, if you didn't do the edit visible button set, then you're not going to see this, so I'm just gonna get rid of it like this. So if you don't see that, then you would have to go on the three dots and do make compositing child here. And what that does is, we're going to make this compositing child as well. What that does is makes this top track basically in charge of everything else below it in this section here. It has nothing to do with the track down here, it's just everything that it is in charge of, basically. So if we wanted to do like a 3D type thing, everything we do here is going into the tracks beneath it. I have a 3D camera tutorial kind of explaining more on it and how to do typo and stuff, so I'm not going to go into that as much, but that's just showing you how to parent it and do whatever you want. Another thing you might end up doing is accidentally making it turn out like this. And to fix that, you would just double click on this scroll vertical thing at the right here. Just double click and it goes back to normal. One more thing you might end up doing is deleting the preview window, which is okay because you can go to View, Windows Layout, then Default Layout. And then it brings back everything I just got rid of, but it doesn't take long to just re-put everything where you wanted it to. So you can drag this up and down depending on if your laptop is small or if your PC hasn't got that much room. There we go. So now render settings. Before you render, go to your preview window, and usually it's at draft, quarter or auto. When you're editing, put it at quarter. Depending which setting depends on how good your PC is. I can't tell you which one, but usually I use good quarter or best quarter. But for lower ends, use preview or draft. Anyway, when you're about to render, put it to full, so it's full quality. Then you go to this icon up here, which is like a pop-out window, render as. Now, assuming that you set your settings at the very beginning of editing, which I said at the start, you have two options. You can do Sony AVC MVC, or you can do Magic's AVC AAC. This one renders above like 60 FPS, it renders more than above 1920 1080, so it will render in 4K, 2K, 6K, whatever you want. Sony AVC only really renders in 1920 1080. Both come out with good quality though, but most will probably recommend you this one because it is the better version. Again, this one's up to you. So first we're going to name what we want it to render as, so I don't know, test. And then we go to browse and you choose where you want it to end up. I put it in downloads, but it's automatically set to documents. So you want to choose, if we move this out of the way, we want to choose the one that's the same as our preview window. So this says 1920 1080 30 FPS. So we want to choose the 1081 29.97 FPS, customize template, and then you have this here. You can change it, you can do custom frame size, you can change it to whatever you want as long as it is the same as your preview window. You can't go from 1920 1080 in the preview then suddenly change it to 4K. That's not how it works. If you wanted to edit it in 4K, you should have changed that at the very beginning, not at the very end, because it messes it up. So don't do that, do it the same as your preview window. So 1920 1080, I did 29 FPS, so 29 FPS. You don't really touch these. Audio, you don't touch that. You go to project and then video rendering quality, you choose best. And then press OK, and then you would press render. And then this is just basically that's how you use Vegas. I probably missed something. If I did, I apologize. But I tried to make it as simple as I could, so yeah. I hope this made you understand it a little bit more though, so goodbye.